on the Caravan, hey? It's a general part of maintenance and life on the road. When you do as many Ks as we do, you got to do your wheel bearings now and then. Now, I got mine done a while ago. They got pulled apart, cleaned, repacked, put back in, and now they're up to about 40,000 Ks. I'm just going to replace the whole set. And I'll tell you, replacing them on the road yourself is a lot easier than having to clean them and repack them. I'm going to give you a bit of info on how to do it. Beck's allowed me to do it inside because we're in Darwin and it's hot outside. I've got the aircon in here. I'm just going to pack them all in here and show you how it's done. But we've got Cruisemaster ATX on our van. What you can do when you need new bearings, jump on their website, find your part number for your suspension, order them off them, and they just ship them out in a little box. So this is one kit, all right? So in the kit, have a look in here, you get a hubcap, new hubcap, a new inner bearing, and a new split pin in there, and you also get a new wheel seal, hub seal, and you get an outer bearing. All right, so that'll do one whole hub assembly on your Caravan. So I've got 4 of those. Now here they are laid out here. You've got inners, outers, hub seals. Now one thing to note with these, they are a match set, so don't go mixing and matching cups and cones. All right, just leave them in their little sets together, and you have an inner and an outer for each wheel. All right, so I'm going to show you how to pack them by hand. It's a little bit messy, but it's quite doable. All right, you don't want any dirt, any contaminants in there, because they run high pressures, high temperatures, and they're very big load bearings, if that makes sense. So you don't want any contaminants in there. Once they're all packed, I'll slot them back in there until I pull the hubs off and clean them up, ready to go. And I'll show you that as well. You have to buy your own grease. Make sure you don't skimp out. Same as the bearings, before I move on, buy top quality bearings, all right? Do not buy cheap stuff off eBay. They are not the same, and they will let you down. Hey, buy once, buy right. Get decent bearings.
Put a price on safety.
Hey?
You can't put a price on safety.
No, but I mean, you don't want, why buy cheap bearings and then it fails on you and destroys a hub and you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and it costs you $1,000 to get a tow out. When you can spend another 50 bucks on bearings and they'll last you. Yeah? I'm a big advocate for that, eh? Like, poor man buys twice. You just get quality gear. Now comes the fun part, packing the bearings. Hey, you can see the grease.
Oh, it's red.
It is red.
Super cheap.
Yeah.
He does love super cheap. You're spot on,
it's like
Jack.
his favourite shop to go shopping.
That, and where else does he like to go?
Buy?
Bunny.
Bunny.
Oh yeah, bunny.
And Anaconda.
Yeah.
And anywhere that's got fishing or hardware and stuff. Anyway, because it's the morning, I'm having a coffee, but this would be a great job to do with a couple of beers. Don't worry about that. Right, now I'm going to show you how to pack a bearing. I'm just going to show you how to do one, and then I'm going to get stuck in and do the rest of them. But let's go. We'll start with the big one. Pick up your bearing. Now you want to pack it. Now other people might do it differently. Sorry, but I really don't want you to drop them. But I start it and I pack from the inside, or the big side of the bearing, out. And what you do, you cup a bit of grease in your hand and you keep cupping the bearing into your palm like this, and you'll see the grease start squirting through like worms on the other side. Cool? I'll show you. So, grease
yeah.
there.
Good
Job, innit? Grab the bearing, and then you just want to cup it, sort of taking little bits of grease at the same time and pushing it against your palm. Can you see that there, Beck?
Yeah.
And then look, I'll stop for a sec. Can you see the grease starting to come through? Little worms. And then keep moving.
And you just go keep turning like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
So keep pushing it through. I like to get a bit through to make sure they're well lubed. There you go.
Right.
So those 3 rollers are packed. Then you flip it around a little bit, and you keep going.
Who taught you that?
I'm a mechanic, mate.
Oh.
Beck forgets that I am a trained qualified mechanic.
I do actually.
Even though I will openly admit, I don't think of myself as a very good mechanic. I never really enjoyed it, but the basic skills that you learn in trade school seem to stay with you forever. Anyway, there you go. You just keep packing that around. See that? And then you keep going. So you can see they take a fair bit of grease. Now,
have a go, Bill. Touch it. He can't help himself.
Look how smooth it is.
Yeah.
Oh. Now there's a rag there. Grab yourself a rag.
He's
wipe it off.
He's very like
He likes it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he likes everything.
Handsy.
Now, why you want to do this, like if you didn't pack your bearing before you put it in your hub, if you just threw it in like that, it would probably last, I don't even know, maybe 10 kilometers. It would get that hot, it'd be metal on metal, and it would just destroy itself. So what the grease does, it's like, well, the lubricating part in between the two metal surfaces. So if you don't pack it properly, as soon as you start rolling, it's just metal on metal and they chew themselves to bits. But if you buy good grease and you pack them properly, they should last you 20,000 Ks if you're doing, you know what I mean? Could last you longer, depending on what you're doing. You know what I mean? No dust, no water, no rough stuff. Haven't got a real heavy van. They can last a long time. But for me, I like to do them every 10,000 Ks to have a good look at them because we use our gear. All right, it goes off road. It's heavy. It's at its ATM. You know what I mean? We've got heavy ATM. And we give it a hard time. We do water crossings, we do beach work, we do everything. So, preventative maintenance, mate. Prevention is better than a cure. Here we go. That's one packed bearing. All the way around, all wormed around. And then,
Looks like it's all,
yeah,
like all.
Looks like it has strawberry juice on it.
strawberry juice.
Looks like strawberry.
There you go. And I like to give it a bit of a spin like that. Get all the grease through. And then, there we go.
One bearing.
Good job,
done.
innit? That's one bearing done. Sit that back in the cone, like so, and then I'll put it back in its little box to keep it dust free.
Maybe you boys can do the next one.
Ooh, yeah.
Inside the van, dear.
Yay!
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do the rest of these, and then I'll show you when I pull the wheels off, and we'll do that side of it as well. Hope that's some good info for you, anyway. All right, now's the fun part, hey? We actually got to pull them off, remove the old bearings and fit the new ones. Now, I reckon it's a lot easier just to fit new bearings than it is to clean and repack old bearings. And then, mate, if you find one that's knackered anyway, then what are you going to do if you haven't got a new set? So, a couple $100 off the Cruise Master website. Full kits, inners, outers, seals, hubcaps, split pins, and away you go. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. I've done the other three. Now I'm going to do this last wheel here and show you step by step. Now, I am a qualified mechanic, but it's not a hard job, and this is good info if you, I don't know, if you do a wheel bearing or you need to do a bit of maintenance or something. I think it'll be good info to have. So you might get a few tips out of this. First thing you got to do is jack the damn thing up. Now, generally, caravan sites, you're going to have like grassy areas. So if you try and jack up a 3.5 ton van on one little tiny base plate, it's probably just going to sink into the grass. I use me tread or your max tracks, whatever, and jack her up. Right. Oh, I'll give you another tip. If you've got ATX or airbag suspension like we do, take the air out of it. So use your little controller and bleed the air down to nothing. Otherwise you're fighting your airbag trying to jack it up. Okay, I like to lay my wheel down here and I can sit on it, use it as a little seat while I do the rest of it. I'll talk you through the components of this one. Obviously it's going to be different for whatever suspension you got. This is the Cruise Master ATX airbag with discs. Now the basics of the wheel bearing is going to be the same, but if you've got drum brakes it's going to be a different setup to this. Alright, so this is the rotor, the brake rotor. This is your hubcap, where your wheel bearings and the axle are inside of that. This is your brake caliper with your brake pads. Now, to get your rotor off, you have to take 2 caliper bolts off on the back of your brake caliper, pull that off, and then your disc will come off, or your rotor will come off. Then you can get your hub and your wheel bearings out. I'm going to change my pads as well because they are cactus, mate. I'll show you. Because we've done a lot of dirt roads, been up the Cape and that, they get a lot of dust caught in them, and then heavy brake applications with your towing and that. Rocks get caught in the leading edges here. See that? That's the old pad. So they get really chewed out just from having rocks and dust in there. But hey, when you use your gear, that's what happens. So I've got new pads as well. I'll show you them when we clip them in. Freshies, mate. This is a good chance too, while you're doing this with the wheels off and everything, you can have a good look over everything else. So you can check your brake lines, check your handbrake cable, lube a few things up, grease your trailing arms, check your air suspension. You know, while you've got your head in here, you can see a bit more without the wheels on. You can have a good look around. So I like to do that and stay on top of it. It's a lot easier to fix stuff while it's wearing before it actually breaks and you're on the side of the road with no parts, yeah? Caliper bolts are done. I'll move this, you can see it come off. Give it a wiggle. There you go. Pull it off your disc here, and then the disc will just slide off the wheel studs out of the way. There you go. Here's your pads. They just clip in. One goes inside your piston with a clip, and the other one sits in there with a clip. But what I want to show you is a little trick, because to get your new pads in and back on the rotor, you have to compress that brake piston back in, because these pads are worn and the piston's been pushed further out. Once you put your new pads in, you won't fit it back over the thickness of your disc, yeah? But got a sneaky little trick, mate. Instead of having a brake piston compression tool, like when you slide this little tool in here and wind it and it compresses it back in, just use the handle of your hammer or whatever, jam it in between the old brake pads and lever it. Might work the other way. And what that does is push, 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 push. I don't know if you can see that. Ready? There you go. Pushes that piston all the way back into its housing. So then when you fit your new pads, she goes back on. There you go. Push this one out of the clip. This one's chewed up too. But yeah, Freshy's going in. Time to do the bearing, but I want to show you what tools you'll need beforehand. You don't need much, but you need a few little things. Pair of pliers, a good punch to knock the cups out, the old ones. Torque wrench to do your caliper bolts back up, minus 75 Newton meters. They're going to be different to whatever spec you've got. A shifter, a wide mouth one, to get the stub nut or the axle nut off the end of the wheel bearing. Hammer, ball peen hammer, some good grease, and that's about it, mate. A ratchet, a soft mallet, a couple of bits of timber here, and yeah. Anyway, this is what I carry my tools in. If you haven't seen one of these, I don't carry a toolbox. It is just a tool roll. So it's a Yorktown tool roll. Got little compartments there, they're all zip up. I keep all my tools in there, and I can chuck it in the back of the ute. I can pick it up and carry it around, and it doesn't ding anything. It's lightweight. It's a good thing, mate. Real good thing. Actually, I'm going to organise one and do a giveaway, so I'll put the details in later, because I know I can do that.
What's the code?
It's a good thing. Yeah, you can grab one actually. I've got a discount I'll put down here too. TF 20, get you 20 bucks off one of these, but I'm going to grab one to give away, because I reckon if you're travelling, you need one, eh? Alright, let's get started. Wheel bearings. Let's knock the end off. So you got to get the hubcap off first. I just use my little like a screwdriver bit and a hammer. Put it in the end of the hubcap, give it a tap, open her up, and then I've got this little fella, little pry bar. Just put that in there, lever him off. There you go, that's the hubcap off. You can chuck that, you get a new one. You can reuse them, but in the kit you get a new hubcap with it as well. So keep that over here. One thing you want to do when you're doing wheel bearings is keep everything as clean as you can, because it's metal on metal. You don't want to put any dust or dirt or grass or leaves, crap that's laying around. You don't want it in there. So I grab these bag of rags. They're about $8, eh, from auto stores. Yeah, lay them out. That way everything goes on there, and everything going back in stays nice and clean. Righto, swing in here, dear. Lovely wife's on the camera. Hang on a second, check her out. Hey, she's a stunner, isn't she? Yeah. Swing in here. This is a split pin, which retains our nut. So you want to grab a pair of pliers, bend that back down, like so. There's another one on the inside. If I can grab that one, and straighten him up. we go. Then tap him up. Use your pliers to grab your split pin. Lever him up. That can go in the bin too. I usually put it in the old hubcap there. Alright, and this is where you need your wide mouth shifter. These are cool, these little Barco ones. They open right up to like 45mm or 50mm. But it'll fit over the hub nut. And just wind him off. Once that's loose, you can use a rag and just spin it off. Be careful though, they get sharp edges on them like little burrs. So if you don't use gloves or a rag, you can slice your fingers pretty easy. This one's gone, and then make sure you get a can of degreaser because you're going to need that to clean all your bits. And you want to get rid of all the old grease off all the pieces and all the parts that you use. There we go. Put that in the box. We need to reuse that nut. And there's also, when you start sliding that hub off, the seal's going to hold it on the axle a bit, but there you go. It shoots off. You've got to retain that big washer too. There's your old bearing, look at that. The old grease is a bit yucky. I think we were on borrowed time with these, eh? They were feeling pretty notchy and gross. Which, hence, while we're doing them, eh? I knew they were up. And we do hard Ks. A lot of dirt, a lot of water crossings, a lot of beach work, and we're heavy. So, got to make sure you stay on top of your maintenance. Keep that one. You need that, and you need your nut. Everything else you get new, alright? Now it's a good chance while this is off, give it a wipe, and get all the old grease off your stub axle and make sure it's all looking good. You can always, if you've got any little nicks or marks on them, you can use a bit of emery paper and touch it all up. Because mine are only 40,000 Ks old, they're still pretty much brand new, so I'm happy days. If you do manage to cook a bearing though, and it melts in there, generally there's a fair bit of damage. It's not very pretty, but mine are sweet. Clean all the old grease out of that thread. Give them all up down. Here we go. Now we can start on the hub. So there's the inner that came out when we pulled it off. On the other side is the axle seal and the inner bearing, right? Or did I just say that? Anyway, this is where the timber comes in handy. I've got a little block of timber here, and I've got my other little block of timber somewhere else. Where's the other one? There it is. You sit these up, sit your hub on it like that. That way it gives you something, your seal and your bearing can just fall through the other side. So what I do, I just use my punch, and I'll punch the whole lot through. So I'll punch the inner race of the bearing straight into the seal, and the whole lot comes out as one. Saves you trying to dig out your seal and all that sort of stuff. So I'll show you. Come in here. There you go. It's the seal and the bearing all comes out together. Now we just got to clean that up and pull our cups out, which means knock out the fresh cups that our bearing rolls in. That can all go in the bin. Make sure you got plenty of rags because you're going to need them. I'm going to go through this whole bag just to do one full set of bearings on the Caravan. Get in there and wipe all the old grease out. It's good work, isn't it? You want to have a go, dear? Yeah. Get our degreaser in there. Righto, now we have to get these out. So if you can see in here, these are the cups. You can see the wear on them too. Can you see that? Anyway, they come out and you punch them in, and they're an interference fit, which means they're a little bit bigger than the actual boring in the hub. So you got to knock them in by compression, and then that's what holds them in, is the interference fit. So the same thing, you get a punch, and then going through from one side to the other, you can grab, there's a little edge that comes out on each cup, and you just have to knock them. So give it a couple of knocks one side, a couple of knocks the other side, and just keep walking it out, and that old cup will come out. Show you. Done. There you go. That's the outer cup. That can go in the bin too. What you do though, I've already saved them. You just want to keep one inner and one outer and one seal and clean them up, because that's what you'll help use to reinstall all your new stuff. I'll show you that in a second. Flip him over and bash out the big one. Ding. Happy days. Righto, another rag, bit more degreaser. And clean that right up. So you want to make sure there's nothing in there at all before you install your new ones. Let's go, put the new one in. It doesn't matter which one you do first, eh? So I showed you the other day, I've already pre-packed them. Here they are, wrapped up nice and clean. I'll pull the bearing out, leave that in there, get the new cup. And then, this is where it can be a little bit tricky. You've got to sit him in here and just slowly tap him in to seat him. Work him around. And then you'll notice I can't keep hitting it because it's flush with the hub. So how am I going to get that in? Well, oh, this is where I've kept one of these old ones, right? Now what you want to do is put it in this way up, so the thick side down, because you do need to be able to punch it back out, because you're going to use this to tap in the new cup. So once you get down a certain way, it'll start going into that housing as well. Don't worry about it, just keep going until you'll hear the sound change, and you'll know that that bearing cup is seated in the hub. Now you can buy like this bearing installer tools for different size cups, and it's just like a punch with a big round head on it, and you can just whack them in. They're a lot easier, but when you're on the road you can't carry all that sort of specialist stuff, so this works, mate. Knock him down, and then hear that. See how it changed sound? It's gone from knocking the bearing in to like, makes more of a high pitched sound, and you feel your hammer bounce back. That's when you know your bearing cup's seated. I just use my punch to give it a bit of a tap in each corner. And then you flip it over, and just like you did with the old bearing, you grab that front edge of the old cup and tap, knock him out. That one goes back in the box. There's your new one done.
Beautiful.
Works alright, eh? You proud of me, love, for what?
Yeah.
Anyway, do the same for the big one on the inner side. Hear that? Change sound. Seated. Alrighto. Next step, mate, is putting the bearing in and then the seal. I like to put a heap of grease on the inside. So fill that bearing up. Remember, you still got to fit your stub axle through, so don't put so much in there. Nice bit around the cup there. And while you got greasy fingers, put some fresh grease all over your stub axle, ready to slide on, like so. Rub that, wipe my hands. New bearing, straight in the cup, like so. Sits in there. And the last bit, we've got to put our seal in, which is there. It's our last seal. Here's our old seal that I've been using to install it. Now I'll show you a little trick on the inside of these seals. See, there's a big spring there that retains that seal. Sometimes they can pop off when you're hammering them on. What I do, I reckon helps it, is grab some grease and jam it in around that spring. Sort of like a bit of glue and a bit of pressure. Just helps it hold it in there, because if it pops off, then you have to try and pull your seal out without damaging it to put that back on. Anyway, and this goes on to your hub. Try and square it up. You can push it on a bit gently. You need it to go in square.
Square?
Yeah, so like, see that? You don't want it going in like that.
It's round.
Yeah, I know, but square as in even.
Oh.
So you want to go in nice and even.
That makes more sense.
Give it a little tap around the edge. And then here's the old seal. Make sure it's clean. Sitting on top. That way you're getting more surface area pushing down on it rather than just a hammer. Holding there. Tap. Work your way around. And you just want it to go flush with the hub. Happy days. Look at that. That's how you install the seal, mate. Alright, now put a bit more grease in there if you need it. Top him up, and then grease up this side as well. Then you're ready to slide him on. So work your way onto the stub axle, come around the side here. Gently push him in there, then just give him a bit of a wriggle as you slide the seal over that. There you go. That's seated. Wipe your grease out of there. And then you need your new bearing. This outer. Push him straight over the top there and on. And then you get those two bits that you retained, your retaining washer and your nut. Your washer goes on first, and then your nut goes on. Wind him on, and I'll show you a little tip as you get it on, because you want to seat that bearing evenly and make sure it's all the way into their cups and cones, so you're not going to like adjust your bearing and then start rolling and it's all out of whack. Get your shifter, give it a spin, and do this nut up as you spin it. And I like to do it up, this is how I was taught anyway, do it up really tight till it binds and you can't move, then back it off, give it a spin and work your way in. Now the technical terms with bearings are like preload or end float. Preload meaning you're actually tightening that bearing up to put some load on it, or end float meaning you've got a little bit of movement inside the bearing cones. Now without a dial indicator it's hard to tell, but if you've done enough of them you can sort of give it a feel. But with new bearings I like to have them neutral or a little bit tighter, not super tight, just a little bit of preload, because the new bearing is going to wear. If you're repacking and fitting an old bearing, it's already had its wear, so you want to give it a little bit of end float, which means so it's a little bit looser than you would do a new bearing. I hope that's making sense. But in the axle, in the stub axle, there's two cross drillings, so all you have to do is line one of those up, which suits your tension properly. So that one there is probably a bit loose. Come around to there, I'm happy there. That one on the top lines up. If I go any tighter, it's getting bound up, right? So what I'm going to do is come back to this top one. I'm happy with that, it feels good. And then with the new split pin that comes in your pack, slide him down through the hole. There we go, goes in there. Now that split pin's what retains that bearing nut, so it's not going to come undone. And then with your pair of pliers, you grab one side of it, pull him this way, like that. Use your hammer, and then the bottom side of it, you can cut it off and then tap him up as well. Use your punch to get it up. Happy days. That's it. All we have to do is put a new hubcap on. I'll show you a trick for that too. That can be a bit of a bugger, eh? So you can reuse them, but generally you damage them a bit, like digging them out, or you can put dints in them when you knock them back on. Really doesn't matter if you put a dint on it. All it is stopping dust and dirt and water getting inside there. All right, so new one, happy with that. This is personal preference. I like to put grease in the end of mine. I don't know why, I just think that's what we got taught when I did my trade, so I do it. I can't see it being any better or worse for not. But anyway, chuck this on, Now they're hard to get started because they're an interference fit too, because they keep all the water out. So if you get a little way and then use your specialist tooling, aka firewood, I'll show you this, or if you've got something else, but you just want something that's got a big flat surface, and then give it a whack. There you go. Hubcap installed. You like that?
I like Justin.
It's a good trick, eh? Righto. That is how I do my wheel bearings. Now I'll show you how to put the brakes in, put the caliper back on. We tighten that up with the torque wrench, and then well, with Loctite as well. Any brake bolts, you always put Loctite on them. And we put the wheel back on, let it down, and we're away.
Have
Pretty
you done
good.
That one?
I've done them all. It's the last one.
Oh,
It's taken me, I don't know, probably 4 hours, so an hour per wheel. So that's pretty good. But I don't know. You can get them done. People come out and do them for about 350, 400 bucks, but it's that busy on the road these days. It's always like a massive weight. So yeah, I'm just doing it myself. But there you go. Righto, brakes, wheel, beer. Swing in here, babe, under the thing here, under the hub. Here's the caliper. Here's the new pads. Look how much better they look than the old ones, hey? And there's just these little clips that retain them. So slide him in, up in there. And push him into the correct spot. There we go. And that's done. And then here's our disc, right? The disc goes back on the wheel studs. Like so. Push him in. Now, you got to pick your caliper up. You might have to swing up over the top here. And
Oh, hang on, what am I filming?
this bit going on. So your caliper, your new pads have got to go either side for your caliper. Ooh. There we go. Once you get your top one started, don't do it all the way up. Just leave it a bit loose so you can swing the bottom one around to get your bottom bolt started. I know. Give them a bit of a nip. And then grab your torque wrench. For these ones, they're set at 75 Newton meters. Hear that? There you go. Do that for both of them. One more. I like to give it a couple of clicks to make sure. There you go. That's the brakes and the caliper reinstalled. Now we are good to go. Just got to put the wheel back on, do the wheel nuts up, drop him down. What do you reckon? Good info or what? Did it help you out? I'm not sure until I watch it back. Just wheel this on now. Righto, wheel back on. Show you how I do it so I don't hurt my back. Lean the bottom in first, push him through, and then I sit down like so. And I use my head as well. A little bit silly, but it works. Done. You can put your wheel nuts on if you can find them. It's alright, found them. I knew I put them somewhere. Now this is a good trick too. Always start your wheel studs or your wheel nuts by hand. You don't want to just like put it in the end of your rattle gun and have at her, because if you cross thread one of these wheel studs, you're going to be in a world of pain, eh? 4 or 5 turns on them by hand, so you know they're going to start, and then you can slowly zip them up. Slowly. You don't want to tighten them up. You should know with wheel studs you always do opposites. So as you're torquing them up, to make sure that they seat on your wheel properly. Just got to remember to take your time. You always get a bit carried away when you're on your last one, and you'll end up breaking like the last bolt or something because you're in a hurry, and then it'll take you 10 times longer to get it finished. Righto, zip all these up. Then we let them down. Once I let it down off the jack, I'll get my wheel brace on them and lean on them, give them a bit more hurt. And we're done, mate. Swing in. Righto, there you go, mate. That is done. Hey, I like to give them a bit of a spin with the wheel on, make sure it feels all right. And the way you normally check for wheel bearings to see if they're too loose is just give it a bit of a shake back and forward, side to side. And if there's too much end float, you'll feel a little knock, like knock, knock, knock. And you want to take your hubcap off, remove your split pin and tighten it up again. But mine are good to go. Happy days. All right, any questions, comments, feedback, hit me up down below. Happy to help out, and I hope you enjoyed that. Got some good info out of it. So, see ya.
All right, wheel bearings. Hey, it's a rubbish job. All right, wheel bearings. You got to do them, man.